Okay, so we're going to be talking about Gene Watson's theory of human caring and how, looking at an example of how it can be applied to practice in nursing. This is a quote by Gene Watson, and it says, "Maybe this one moment with this one person is the very reason we're here on Earth at this time." So I already went over the objectives, so I'm just going to go on ahead here. So there are some interesting facts about Jean Watson, and one of them is that she believes caring is the essence of nursing, and that caring is what brings healing. So she actually believes that caring is a moral imperative, and that it's not just an action, but that it requires an authentic attitude. And she makes a point to say that caring isn't a slogan or an advertisement for healthcare organizations, just to sort of really get her point across. And she believes that the ethics and morals of caring for patients genuinely is what should be guiding the nursing profession, rather than having technology and economic gain, rather than having those aspects and things and external forces of society, rather than having those guiding nursing practice. She thinks that nurses should be guiding practice by maintaining the caring aspect of nursing. A huge part of her theory is the transpersonal caring relationship. Her theory is called the theory of human caring, but it's also called the theory of transpersonal care. So this relationship is basically the nurse and the patient who have almost these reciprocal exchanges within their relationship, and these basically potentiate healing both in the patient and in the nurse. And the goal is for the patient to achieve inner harmony, and she believes that inner harmony can be achieved even if a patient is going through external circumstances such as suffering, illness, or death. Basically, she wants to have, she thinks that caring basically helps people transcend illness and suffering. And we need to really have a humanistic approach to our care, and that we also have to take care of the patient as a whole, mind, body, and spirit, with every single interaction. We're not supposed to be just doing manipulative procedures on people. We're supposed to be actually caring about people while we are performing procedures and technical tasks. And this relationship is also supposed to go beyond the ego. The nurse uses a caring consciousness and intentionality during all interactions with patients, and by doing that, it will provide a caring, healing environment which potentiates energy for the patient to generate self-healing processes. Caring moments occur during this transpersonal caring relationship, and caring moments will occur if the nurse is using a caring consciousness. And these moments, she believes, transcend time and space. And she believes this is because we all have a spiritual aspect as humans. We have our spirit, which is pretty much more important than just the physical aspects or any other aspects of ourselves. Caring moments can actually have a ripple effect, so they can actually go beyond yourself and the patient to the surroundings and to the environment, and it can last past infinity, just beyond to the after death, basically. It can also transform the work environment of the nurse as well. The Caritas processes are basically processes that are used, that Gene Watson came up with, and these processes are basically almost as a guide, I guess you would say, which sort of help the nurse to practice a transpersonal caring relationship and to also self-reflect and be able to provide care that can honor a person's spirit. I'm not going to read through all of these because I'm going to go over them within my example. So, one example of when I applied this theory into practice was when I had an Alzheimer's patient. And the situation was that he was newly admitted and he could no longer live at, the background was that he could no longer live at home because the care requirements were too high and he needed safety provisions. And upon my initial assessment before talking with him, he seemed lonely. He seemed a bit sad, a bit confused. The room was completely empty. It didn't look like he had a lot of belongings. It just seemed, he just seemed like he had low energy for healing and that he had an inner disharmony and that he was disconnected with himself. So, by looking around the room and kind of just watching him, I realized that I needed to form a transpersonal caring relationship with him, which meant that I needed to really get to know him, the person behind the patient, and that I needed to find out how I could preserve and honor his spirit and provide a caring, healing environment for him so that he could transcend through this progressive disease process. A lot of people, I think, assume that Alzheimer's patients, they can't, that they're just completely disconnected from their self or and from reality and all these things. But I think that me and Gene Watson think very similarly in the sense that no matter what is going on with a patient, we all as humans have some kind of a part of us, which she refers to as the soul or the spirit. And that is something that we need to actually know and actually try to implement these processes to get to know them, so that we can create a caring and healing environment. So by choosing to form a transpersonal caring relationship, I was practicing the Caritas processes number 1, 3, and 10. So number 1 is embracing love and kindness. And number 3 is going beyond the ego self to open up to another person with compassion. And number 10 is essentially being open to a person's spiritual and existential dimensions to help them transcend during illness or disease. So, Caritas number 1, in order to practice love and kindness for this patient, I always approached him with genuinely nice, caring greetings. I would call him by name. I would smile, and I was always just friendly with him. And I also expressed genuine concern for him. And I would use therapeutic language in order to communicate with him. To nurture a trusting relationship, which was Caritas number 4, I met his basic needs. And I also followed through with care decisions that he made and and that we also discussed together. And I also spent time getting to know him as a person and communicated with his family and the patient to demonstrate support. Another way that I actually helped to nurture trusting relationships was amongst the family and the friends of the family and the patient. And it was just almost this sort of large sort of way of trying to just develop some feeling of support amongst all of them. And I did this by using a sign-in log in the patient's room because at the time, the patient was still able to look at things and read names. So I would have people sign in on this log in his room so that on his own, I would never throw it in his face and, have him look to prove a point or anything like that. But I would just have it in his room so that periodically, if he thought someone didn't come to see him, he could just look at that book. And that would show him that he has trusting, caring relationships with other people, and that he can trust that his family is still coming to see him and that he has friends and still that care about him. It also helped the family realize that there was still people that supported them through this process as well. Curtis number 5 and 10. Number 5 is facilitating expression of feelings and listening to the patient's story. I did this by asking questions that were pretty personal. I asked him, do you know what brought you here? I asked him if he could tell me about his family and what is important in his life, and asking him, what is your story? What do you enjoy? And what do you want for your future? So these are all very personal questions, and the goal of asking these questions is so that you can facilitate expression of feelings, and so so that people can open up to you and tell them their positive and negative emotions and the things that they want, that are often spiritual in nature. Number 10 is being open to attending to his spiritual self. And I was open to doing so by asking these questions and by really listening to his spirit. Embracing transpersonal teaching to learning processes is Caritas number 7. So I did this by staying within the patient's frame of reference when I was teaching and learning from him. And I did this by basically staying within his realm of what he felt was important for him, etc. I also used, not me, he actually taught me his priorities. So transpersonal teaching to learning. So we're both teaching and learning from each other. That's the relationship. So he taught me his priorities and what brings meaning into his life. And then in return, I was also teaching him how we can address those spiritual needs and how we can create a healing environment and how we could still preserve his soul during this progressive disease. And when I asked him all of the questions about his needs and what he wants for his future, and the responses I got were that he wanted to live at home with his family, but it wasn't possible for the situation. And he also felt that his family disliked him because they were arguing a lot at that time, which was it's pretty common with Alzheimer's disease for arguments to arise because oftentimes the patient can get frustrated and have outbursts. Also, the family might not understand what the patient's really going through. They look at it as that the patient has changed and that there's and it's a very difficult process for a family. So I understood what he was referring to, but I also looked at how that was affecting him personally. Also, he was an avid churchgoer, and he wanted to attend church, and it wasn't possible at that time. He also enjoyed music and art and used to play guitar in the past, but he could no longer play, and he had because of arthritis issues, and he didn't have art supplies there. He had nothing there with him other than clothes and all the regular things like shampoo and all that stuff. His Christian faith was also very important to him. It brought him comfort and hope, and he also explained to me that he wanted something to do and that he had no meaning there, and he felt lost. So the biggest Caritas processes that I used during his care as well was number 6 and 8. Number 6 is creative use of self and all ways of knowing for problem solving. So Gene Watson believes that nurses need to use their self, and they need to use all ways of knowing, such as metaphysics and like ways of knowing such as philosophy, science, human science, arts, all sorts of different ways of knowing, because she believes that nursing is an art and a science. And in order for it to be an art and a science, nurses need to know multiple ways of how to problem solve and how to provide care for patients, and to be open to spiritual aspects of patient care. Number 8 is creating a caring to healing environment. And this was huge because he just didn't have anything around him that was going to bring him some sort of energy for healing. And healing for Watson is inner harmony. So I believed that he was still capable of having some sort of inner harmony, even though he had Alzheimer's disease. So by listening to what he had expressed to me previously, I looked at needs such as when he expressed to me about music, that he really enjoyed music. And I know that music can be therapeutic in the medical setting. And so I decided I would provide him with a radio. I asked him, would you like a radio in your room? And he said, yes, oh my gosh, I would love one. So I also had him attend live music show activities that were available as well. And him having that radio in his room during the day, it really helped with his mood. And it also helped increase his memory in a lot of situations. And this was because music can actually bring past events into mind. It can also bring in visual situations in mind. And I remember he would talk to me about concerts he went to. He also would sometimes start singing and he would know all the words to the song. Whereas if we were having a conversation, it was kind of difficult sometimes. It also helped decrease his anxiety and his depression. It also helped him with sleep because at night we could put on softer music. And insomnia is also sometimes an issue for Alzheimer's patients. Also, if he started singing and if I was in the room with him, I would join in with him because I just thought it would be an uplifting experience. And I don't know, I just thought, let's have some fun. So this is just a chart from APM Health, and it just goes over different things that music can do for the body. And like I said, the most important for Alzheimer's patients is bringing back basically familiar experiences, and also like increasing his mood levels and decreasing stress. Other ways that I implemented Caritas number 6 and 8 was by addressing his desire for family's presence, and I did this by providing counseling and support group information for the family members, and I also so that they could learn how to interact more efficiently with their family member in ways that they could get along better, and so that they could understand where the patient is coming from, and also so that they could have support, because that would bring them healing energy, and that healing energy would also reflect with the patient. Also provided activities for the patient with the family members that reduced arguments. So I'll get into that in a second. I already went over the sign-in book, and I also encouraged family members to bring in framed photographs and place them on the patient's desk. So it was nice because he would often show me his family's pictures and tell me who all of his family members were, and that was really nice as well. So he also had a need for artistic expression, and he needed some activity. I remember him telling me that. And since I knew he enjoyed art, I thought, you know what, maybe I'll provide him with some adult coloring books, because that can be relaxing, and he'll be able to self-express him and also have something to do. So when he was using the adult coloring books and the crayons and all of those things, he actually would explain to me the use of the colors and why he used the colors. And he would also hang up completed pictures in the room. And in that way, he was participating in creating a healing environment as well. And because the energy potential that he got from coloring and providing those tools for him actually helped him create, he had more energy potential for self-healing processes. He was also able to have something to do with his family that actually sort of reduced arguments, and I felt that it helped them be calm with one another, and they were able to talk while they would color, and they found a way to spend time with each other without feeling discouraged a lot, and it helped reduce arguments, and the family started bringing in coloring books as well, and this also reduced his stress and increased his mood as well. His other need that he had expressed to me, or priority, was that this was actually one of the first things that I did address with him. He told me about his faith and how important it was for him. So Caritas number 2 was instilling hope and faith by enabling us and sustaining the patient's belief system. So I did this by providing a hymnal and Bible that were actually from his church, not just a random Bible or a random hymnal. I got them from his church, and I contacted the pastor and the church members with his permission for them to know that he wanted to see people. So the pastor would go there, and he was able to see people from church, and that also helped him sustain his belief system. And I also provided him with weekly bulletins from the service and offered him authentic presents. And I would help and participate with him if I was in the room, if he was praying or something like that. I'd offer, do you want me to pray with you? And so that was very important to him as well, and that really helped him a lot. So there was one time that I wasn't going to be returning for a couple of weeks. I was going to be away, and I had formed such a close relationship with this patient that I was somewhat worried that when I returned, he would possibly become angry or confused or wonder where I was, or maybe he wouldn't remember me. And I wasn't worried about it in the sense that I thought I was important. It wasn't anything like that. I was more worried about it, I guess, because I just had become close with him. And I also just cared about him. I remember I did express I did let him know ahead of time, and I told him that I was a little worried he wouldn't remember me, but that even if he doesn't, we're still going to be friends, and even if he does get angry, that we'll figure it out and we'll get through it. So I remember he told me not to worry about it and that he'd see me when I got back. And that also displayed that we had formed a trusting relationship with one another. The transpersonal caring relationship results, I saw this when I returned back from being away. And when I came back, after reflecting, before going in his room, I thought to myself, well, if he doesn't remember you, you're still going to care about him the same way. And you're still going to be happy to see him. And I just sort of self-reflected and realized what might happen. I remember when I went in his room, knocked on the door, and I smiled gently, and I said hello like I usually do. And he didn't say anything, but he turned around and he grabbed a paper off his desk and he smiled and he walked up to me and handed it to me. And this was what he gave me. And my name is actually on the paper, and I'm not sure when he wrote that there. I don't know if he wrote my name there the day I told him I would not be around for a little while, and if that was his way of remembering, I'm going to draw her this picture, or I'm not really sure, but the fact that it says a friend loves at all times, and that my name is on the paper, it really made me see that forming a transpersonal caring relationship with your patients, it really does create caring moments that can transcend time and space, when physicality is not always infinite. And this also displayed to me that a transpersonal caring relationship is not only beneficial for the patient because they're generating self-healing processes, and he wasn't angry or anything or wondering where I was when I came back, which was interesting. Caring moments also affect the nurse and benefit the nurse because I was able to see from this photo how much my profession meant to me as well. So through care and love, which are two things that Gene Watson believes nurses need to have for their patients, no matter who they are, through care and love, caring moments occurred that transcended time and space. And by creating a caring to healing environment and a trusting relationship and offering him authentic presence through a caring consciousness, energy potential for self-healing practices and energy for transcending the physicality of disease was possible for this patient. And the patient was able to preserve his spirit regardless of memory degeneration. And he was a lot happier than when he first got there. I was also energized by the relationship, and I found more purpose in my work. And through that reciprocity, it really does help benefit both people. And this is a quote from Gene Watson again, and it's the same one. Maybe this one moment with this one person is the very reason we're here on earth at this time. So every moment that we're with our patients, we really need to be guided by care and love for them as human beings and as spiritual beings, and not just physical objects. So I really think this is very important in practice and for the profession. And applying it in practice can be done with several different kinds of patients. So I hope that you guys will be able to find ways to apply this in your practice as well. Thank you.